Oh, tonight it was the return of AEW Dark. Pay your fucking light bill, Toni. I don't know what was going on with the lights tonight, but we actually had a lights out main event on this show, which is kind of funny that they had issues with the lights going out in multiple segments, including a main event that was billed as a lights out match. But they did not intend for the lights to actually go out during said match. But yes, that's what we got. We got Hangman Adam Page and we got Swerve Strickland together on the same page, on the same team. Tag team partners against Hook and Powerhouse Hobbs. Lights out, which means no rules, anything goes. This match went almost, I think, 20 minutes beyond the top of the hour. So we more or less got a 2.5 hour show tonight. And in the end, Hangman got his revenge on Hook for his role in costing him the World Championship back at Full Gear. Finally got his revenge. No Samoa Joe on the show tonight, which probably could have used him. We did have MJF and Bandido, who had a little bit of a face-off after Bandido's match. They, of course, have a big World Championship match coming up next week. That's going to be on what they're billing the Maximum Carnage episode of Dynamite. And that was probably the best part of the entire show, honestly, as far as just the back and forth between them. MJF was his usual self. He had his translator out there with him, John Cruz. And Bandido stood tall when it was all over. You know, he stood tall. He was holding up the championship that he will never have. But he was holding it up. It's a match I'm looking forward to. We all know what the outcome is going to be, but it is a match that I'm looking forward to. That's coming up next week. We have more members, though, of the Don Callis family. See, I don't think we had enough. I think we needed more. And now we have more. And I will tell you who those members are. So we'll talk about that. We got some good wrestling tonight, which is pretty average for AEW. We got some good wrestling tonight. The show on the whole was not anything terribly exciting. And the issue that I'm having is that there is no real story. There's no one story right now that I would say is terribly hot. And the one story that I actually am invested in is one that they couldn't continue tonight because the two players were not even on the show because they just came off big matches in Japan at the Tokyo Dome the other night. That being Okada and Takeshita. That's 2 weeks in a row now that we have not seen them here on this show. So I am hoping that next week we will get them back and we can begin to really push that story forward a little bit more because that's the one that really interests me. None of the other stories they're telling or trying to tell right now are really grabbing me. So what you're left with is some good wrestling matches, which we get every week on the show, and that was it. So it was a pretty average episode, honestly, of Dynamite tonight. But this is your AEW Dynamite review. It is Wednesday, January 7th, 2026. So technically the first episode of the new year here of Dynamite. We are getting very close to 90,000 subscribers. So if you are new here, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button as well. 400 is the minimum that we need to do our Be the Booker segment a little bit later on. Super chats are open, so I will be reading any and all messages that come in. So get those on in. And we'll hang out a little bit later on here at the end of the stream. So let's get into it here. Dynamite this week was in Oklahoma. I think they were in Tulsa. Tulsa, Oklahoma. They opened with Excalibur and Tony Schiavone on commentary. No Bryan Danielson this week. They threw it to Justin Roberts, who was in the ring to do the introduction for a very special guest who was in attendance on this show because they were, in fact, in Oklahoma. And so the special guest was good old JR, Jim Ross, who has not been on the show in a few months. I don't remember actually the last time they had him on the show. It would have been one of the pay-per-views. I don't remember how many months ago it was. Obviously, he's coming off some health issues that he's been dealing with. So he got a big ovation, given that they were in Oklahoma, as you would expect. And he joined on commentary for the remainder of the show on a day where Devon Dudley dropped his response to JR. Now, if you don't know this controversy, Devon Dudley on his podcast, I don't know, maybe a month ago, 2 months ago, maybe if that, He shared a story, and he had done some kind of interview with Bubba, and this was brought up. And it's not really a news story, but for whatever reason, it came up again recently, and then it really blew up. Where I think he was actually asked by Bubba, I think that's what it was, if he had ever encountered any racism during his time in the business and during his time specifically in WWE. And he has said in the past that he has, and he never specified any names. But because of that, and because he kind of left it out there hanging, everybody and their mother was just guessing, oh, it must have been Michael Hayes, or it must have been John Laurinaitis, or it must have been Bruce or Vince. And they were all wrong, because the person that he was inferring, and then he flat out came out and said who it was Jim Ross. That certain comments were made to him that stuck with him for all these years, and Bubba was there for it. So Bubba could back him up on it. It's not just JR. It's not just JR's word against Devon's. Bubba backs him up. Maven backs him up. So it was pretty damning. And then Jim Ross, again, he was, I think, in the hospital. They didn't know that at the time. So he came out of the hospital and he resumed his podcast with Conrad. And then a few weeks ago, JR responded. And he said that the comments really took him off guard, and he doesn't know what Devon's talking about. It's not true. It's not something he said to him, and he's saying, well, maybe Devon's just trying to generate some attention for his show. You know, he's desperate to get downloads on his podcast. You know, I like Devon. I signed him and Bubba, and, you know, they made money with them and all this stuff that Bill Watts would say, right? How can you say all these things about me? All these wrestlers I had on my roster, and JYD was my main star, and we made money together. How can you say all these terrible things about me? And JR, of course. I mean, you talk about the learning tree. He sat under the learning tree with Cowboy Bill Watts. So anyway, it just was a very nasty, ugly situation. So Devon today of all days, the day that JR returns to TV, it just so happened that he dropped a new podcast with Maven. It's like 45 minutes long, just responding to Jim Ross and saying, in fact, no, I'm not lying, or, you know, making it up or pulling it out of thin air, I think is what JR said. And he actually got even more specific with it, where, you know, he mentioned that it was actually two different incidents. One at the WWF New York restaurant in Times Square. It might have been the launch. So we're looking at late 99, maybe early 2000. And he was there with Bubba, and he said JR was drunk. So they're downstairs, they're hanging out at the restaurant, and here comes Jim Ross. And clearly he's had a few. And he comes over to them and says, you know, you boys are doing well. And it was some comment to the effect of, Devon, though, I'm not so sure about. And Devon wasn't sure what he meant by that. What do you mean by that? We're doing well, but you're not too sure about me. And, you know, long story short, he was implying, you know, I'm not so sure about him, you know, because he's black. And Devon said, like, Bubba had to hold him back. Like, he was, in his mind, you know, he was contemplating, okay, if I punch this guy in the face, we're going to be fired. And they were still very new to the company at the time. If I say something to him, I'm going to probably get fired. And so, you know, Bubba spoke up, and Bubba could sense that this was about to get very, you know, combustible. And again, JR is supposedly drunk and whatever. It's just a very weird comment to make. Like, well, you know, you're black. Like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. But then there was like another incident he said in Minneapolis or Indianapolis, maybe, I think he said, where Paul Heyman was there. A bunch of people were there. Apparently this was like known by multiple people. And it just doesn't paint, you know, JR in the best light. And as Devon said during his podcast, yeah, the thing is, like, when you're drunk and you're making comments like that, there is an expression that a drunk man's words are a sober man's thoughts. And there is something to be said for that. But anyway, he certainly did not lay down and just take, you know, the response from JR. He had his own response. And Maven was there with him, you know, basically backing up what he was saying. So not the best day for JR, but at least we saw him back on TV. He did commentary. He was quiet for some of the matches. He was a little more animated during the main event. But at least he's doing well enough where he could actually be at the show. Because again, I know he's had a lot of health issues in the last few years. So earlier today, we got some footage from backstage where we had Renee. She was in the back and told us that JetSpeed were attacked and that they would not be cleared by doctors. There was supposed to be a match tonight where Jack Perry was going to team up with Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight to take on Ricochet and The Demand, and now that's not going to happen because they were attacked. So Jack Perry was once again all by himself. So The Demand and Ricochet are there. They're feigning concern, and Renee brings up the bounty that they put on JetSpeed's heads last week. So Don Callis shows up, and he says that someone or something just got very rich. Mark Davis walks in with Jake Doyle. Jake Doyle is the former Jake something from TNA. He is now officially a member of the AEW roster. So that was quite unexpected there. And Callis says that they're going to kill some people. So now this leaves Jack Perry in need of some partners heading into tonight's 6-man tag team match against Ricochet and The Demand. Poor Jack Perry. This guy just can't catch a break here. First, he loses Luchasaurus. Now he loses JetSpeed. It's like nobody wants to team with this guy. So now he's got to go out and find some new partners. Let me talk about Jake something here for a second. This was a pretty big fumble here. This was TNA fumbling the bag with Jake something. I don't know how you have someone like Jake on your roster. I know he was hurt for a while, had like a leg injury, but he came back. And they really never seemed to push him in any sort of real significant way. And he's a good wrestler. Physically, he's very impressive. I don't know how you don't find more for someone like that to do. Now, maybe they made him an offer. Now, his contract came due is what happened. So his contract expired, and I don't know if TNA made him an offer. I don't know if there was no offer made. Maybe they made him an offer, and he just took a better one. But however it all ended for him there's more that they could have been doing with him, and they weren't doing it. And if they were, there's a pretty good chance he would probably still be there. Especially now, TNA's going into this big AMC debut next week. They could use somebody like him on their roster. So I don't know how they fumbled somebody like that. We've had him in House of Glory before. He's very impressive. And now TNA's loss is going to be AEW's gain on a roster that's already very big and bloated as it is. But he's definitely, a quality pickup, for Tony Khan. Now we could talk about, the name Jake Doyle. That's his real name, by the way. Doyle is his shoot last name. Let's be honest, okay? It's a better name than Jake something. Jake Doyle is a better name than Jake something. I mean, you may disagree because Jake something is more established, but it's certainly no worse than Jake something was. The name change doesn't really bother me. The issue is that they appear to be pairing him up with Mark Davis, and it looks like they're going to be a team. There's positives to it in that the tag team division in this company is, of late, recent months, has been reinvigorated. They could be a force in the tag team division. I question how seriously they're going to be pushed if they're going to be paired up as a tag team. Mark Davis lost his tag team partner, Kyle Fletcher, because Mark Davis was hurt. It gave them a chance to push Kyle Fletcher as a single. It was the worst thing that could have happened to Mark Davis was him getting hurt. That was the end of Aussie Open. Kyle Fletcher now, he doesn't need Mark Davis anymore. Kyle Fletcher will be a world champion on his own one day. So that leaves Mark Davis as, way down here in the Callis family. So for him, if he has Jake Doyle now as a tag team partner, it's good for Mark Davis. How good is that going to be for Doyle? We'll see. If they start him out that way, but then over time they kind of gradually, he climbs the ladder and he could be doing more than just teaming with Mark Davis, then that's great. So it may not be a bad place to kind of start him out in. And the Callis family, because they have so many fucking members, they're on television every single week. So, I could think of worse things for them to be doing with him. He could be relegated to some banished to some show where nobody will see him. But yeah, so that appears to be the plan for him right now, is to keep him in a team. But the opening match saw Jon Moxley against Shelton Benjamin. This was a Continental title eliminator match. First time ever match, actually, between the two of them. Shelton had tears visibly running down his face as he came out and made his entrance. I don't know what that was all about, but it was pretty obvious if you were paying attention during his entrance. MVP sat in on commentary for this. It was a little crowded out there on commentary because Danielson wasn't there, but you had Excalibur, you had Tony Schiavone, you had Jim Ross, and you had MVP. So you had a lot of voices out there on commentary. Both men brawled into the crowd early on. Referee Paul Turner just followed them instead of laying the count on. Moxley went back to ringside. Benjamin met him by leaping off the barricade, taking him down with a clothesline. Moxley tried to create some distance. Benjamin continued his onslaught with a released German suplex. Moxley was able to avoid a second one. He sent Benjamin crashing into the ring steps. And then they teased the count out, which was very silly because we just had the referee follow these men into the crowd. But now he's interested in administering the count. Before he wasn't, but now he is. Moxley was scaling the ropes when Benjamin jumped up to meet him up there, hit an avalanche superplex. Later on, Moxley tried a rear naked choke. Benjamin spun out. He tried his rewind kick. He missed it, only to catch Moxley charging with pay dirt. And then we had Suplex City here from Benjamin. Moxley ultimately, though, caught Benjamin with a leaping cutter for a 2 count at the 15-minute time call. We had 5 minutes remaining. All these Continental matches have 20-minute time limits, so we had 5 minutes remaining. Moxley tried 10 corner punches. Benjamin powerbombed out of it into a high stack for 2. Transitioned into a submission hold. Moxley made the ropes. Moxley went for a King Kong lariat. He ran into another pay dirt, only for a near fall. Moxley later on, he got the paradigm shift. Benjamin, though, kicked out. Moxley quickly got a bulldog choke applied. We have 60 seconds now, we're told, left in this match. Benjamin grabbed the ropes, so he had to break the hold. Benjamin applied a triangle. Moxley looked like he was about to fade, but he stacked Benjamin up, and he pinned him. He got a flash pin with what they said was 5 seconds left in this match. Jon Moxley pins Shelton Benjamin. And after the match, Moxley offered a handshake. Benjamin accepted, and the crowd applauded. So this was a good opener. Moxley continues to churn out good matches with this sort of fighting babyface role that he's been in now, really ever since the Continental Classic started. He's had some good matches. I was pretty surprised they did not have this one go to a draw. I thought this was going to a draw. I thought that they would have Benjamin come back with an actual championship match, and instead they just beat him. So that was kind of disappointing. I would not mind Benjamin challenging for the TNT title, since apparently he ain't going to be challenging for the Continental title because he lost tonight, which means he doesn't get another opportunity to get a title match. This was not a title match. This was an eliminator match. So since he's not going to be going after that championship, why not the TNT title? Mark Briscoe has that title right now. And frankly, I would love to see Shelton Benjamin get a run with it. That's what I would like to see. You could do Benjamin and Briscoe. You could build to that. And again, I think giving Benjamin a run with that championship for a little bit would be a fine idea. Or pick another title. They have plenty to choose from. Put a fucking blindfold on and just point. And I guarantee you'll land on one of the many championships that you could have Shelton Benjamin challenging for. There's a national title. There's an international title. Continental title. That's not going to happen. So now you have the TNT title. Pick a belt. Shelton's been great since he came back. It's unfortunate that Bobby Lashley went down with apparently what might be a shoulder injury. Yes, I'm not even joking. So he's going to be gone for a while. So rather than just have Benjamin sort of bounce around and meander around aimlessly, I'd love to see them really find something meaningful for him to do. TNT title. Sounds good to me. We see Darby Allin skateboarding backstage, looking for Pac. Then Excalibur brings up Hiroshi Tanahashi, the ace, who wrestled his final match at the Tokyo Dome. Wrestle Kingdom, of course, was this past weekend. Just an awesome main event against Okada. A fine send-off, fighting until the bitter end, not giving up, giving it all he's got, but falling to the Rainmaker in the end, and then getting that incredible send-off with all the different cameos and the parade float. It's a very special night. So we got some highlights of that. Don't let TV Asahi know, or they're likely to throw AEW off the air if they find out they were using their footage. Jack Perry and his mystery partners. By the way, if you missed it, I did a bonus podcast this week, about 20 minutes, just talking about the key matches that I saw from Wrestle Kingdom, including that Tanahashi and Okada match, but also the Takeshita match with Yota Tsuji, the Aaron Wolf debut, the women's match. So that is up on the channel right now. We had Jack Perry and his mystery men against Ricochet and the Gates of Agony. So the mystery partners turned out to be the Young Bucks. So much for them getting time off. I thought they weren't cleared and we might not see them for a while. And 2 weeks later, they're back. Came out to their babyface entrance music. Of course, they are babyfaces now. So this was the usual Young Bucks party match, the spot fest that you would expect. Too many moves here to mention. But there was a triple Samoan drop spot. I did want to point this out. I did want to show some love for this. At one point, we had Bishop Khan. He got Perry and both Bucks with the help of his partner, Toa Liona. But he got all three of them on his shoulders. And he walked with them, and then he dropped him for a triple Samoan drop. So that was impressive. Ricochet loaded up the spirit gun. Perry ducked. He ate a pump knee. Ricochet tried the powerbomb Death Valley driver. Perry, though, countered into a poison rana. And the Bucks returned for a super kick party on all of the demand. As Perry joined in on the fun, Ricochet got placed on Matt Jackson's shoulders. Nick took out GOA outside with a dive. Perry hit a Doomsday device. We got a BTE trigger. Connects, and an assisted sacrifice knee launched Perry into Ricochet for the win over the national champion. That ought to earn him another crack at that title because he just pinned the champion. So he better get a shot at that title. After the match, guess who hits the ring? Mark Davis and Mark Davis Part 2. They're dressed the same. They're dressed, it's like Callis dressed them. They're both wearing black tank tops, and they hit the ring, and they attack Perry and the Bucks. Callis is on the apron, jumping for joy. Lance Archer is at ringside. I think I saw El Clone was out there. JetSpeed now. They show up, all heavily bandaged up. They're all wrapped up. They hit the ring with hockey sticks, and they attacked. And then the lights went out. Not the only time on this show that the lights would go out. It would happen at least 2 more times throughout the show. At least here it was intentional, though. They meant to turn the lights off here. So the lights go off. And when they come back on, there is a man standing in the ring in a mask, and we already know who it is. I mean, come on. But he delivered the message to Mike Bailey. And even before he took his mask off, Excalibur on commentary just flat out said, "That's Andrade El Idolo." So then he did the dramatic pulling of the mask off his head, probably not knowing that Excalibur just spoiled the surprise. But he pulls the mask off, and yes, indeed, it is Andrade. And he is back again in AEW. So the Callis family stood tall. FTR, they wheeled out Stokely Hathaway in a wheelchair onto the stage, and they stared down everyone. And Excalibur told us that they have a history with Andrade. But fuck me if I can remember what that history actually is. I couldn't tell you. But apparently there's history there. Now look, we already knew that Andrade got his full release from WWE. He popped up in House of Glory. I think we were the first domestic indie that he popped up in after he became fully free. And then after that, we saw him at the Tokyo Dome. He wrestled on the Wrestle Kingdom card this weekend for New Japan. So it was only a matter of time, before we got him back here on TV. And it's actually very impressive when you think about it, because Ricochet, we remember Rick Rude being the man who will go down forever as the only man to appear on Raw and Nitro on the same night at the same time. That was Rick Rude, right? Nobody else can ever say that. Of course, because Raw, Nitro doesn't exist anymore. Andrade has made history in a very different way. Andrade is the only man in history to go from WWE to AEW, back to WWE, back to AEW, only to find out that he is still technically under contract. So he vanished, still with WWE, but then to end up back in AEW. The dude should be in the Hall of Fame for that alone. Like, that should earn him a Hall of Fame induction all by itself. If he does nothing else in his career, that alone should earn him a Hall of Fame induction. But this makes 3 debuts for him here in AEW. So he's managed to pull that off. This return did not hit the same, as the first one. The first one was a genuine surprise because of how quickly he showed up on the other show after being what we all thought was released from WWE. It's like, holy shit. On top of that, he debuts by attacking Kenny Omega, right? One of the biggest stars in the entire company. So it was impactful. It was an impactful debut. And then he disappeared and nobody said a word about it. He comes back this time in a segment that just is not nearly as meaningful on a night where they already introduced another new member of the Callis family even before him in Doyle. So it just didn't hit the same way as the first time. We get a new member in this group every few weeks, it feels like. So both of them are, but more so Doyle, but they're both just another face in a very expanding crowd of faces. And it's going to be very difficult, I think, to kind of break through all that noise. We know at the top you've got Okada and Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher. Like, those are your 3. Andrade is probably even more than Josh Alexander. I would say Andrade now is probably the number 4. Alexander's right there with him, maybe number 5. And so you got everybody else who's fighting for these, other spots in the group as far as where they fall in the pecking order. I'm not even counting Wardlow, because who the fuck knows if he'll even be a part of this group by the time he comes back. So he's one of many. When you're part of a group that big, where Don Callis is really the star, you are one of many. I don't know that Andrade's time in this company is going to be any different than it was the first time. Again, he's like Jake something, talented pickup. It all boils down to, what do you do with them? What are you going to do with them, or what can they do themselves to really stand out from the pack? Otherwise, you're just going to come out every week. You're going to be in a backstage segment. You are one of many. You will be a face in the crowd, and that's not what you want to be. It might be a good way to reintroduce them initially, but there's got to be more to it than that. Now, they've already announced that Omega is going to be back on the show next week on the Maximum Carnage episode. So I'm curious to see if they pick up where they left off, and if they're going to do something with Omega and Andrade, or if Omega, knowing that Andrade is there, is maybe going to go after him or call him out. And then we can build to an Andrade and Omega match. It doesn't have to be Andrade's first match back. You want to give him some wins first, but how do they not pick up with that? Like, if they're both going to be in the building next week, let's presume, how does Kenny Omega, let's say, not either go after the guy or bring up the fact, like, hey, why don't you get your ass out here? I haven't forgotten about what you did to me. You have to resume that. You have to pick up with that. Renee was in the ring after a break to introduce Willow Nightingale, the new TBS champion, for her championship celebration here on this show after her win last week over Mercedes Moné. Her reign is over at 584 days. So Willow comes to the ring with her TBS title and her AEW Women's Tag Team title. Chris Statlander is with her. Harley Cameron is with her. And then as Renee begins to ask her first question, the lights go out. Now, they don't go out completely where it's pitch black, you can't see anything. But the main lights, anyway, they went out. And now it's very dark. And they end up having this spotlight that they shine on Willow as she's speaking. So they at least tried to do that. So we truly got AEW Dark here on this show. Willow said that now the hard work really begins. You get ready for the next challenger, but it's important to smell the roses when things truly matter. She's here with her busty badass babe, Harley Cameron, and a reunion, not just with her TBS championship, but with the AEW Women's World Championship, which is held by Chris Statlander. So we're going to have a good time, she says. She realizes, though, it's only a matter of time before someone rains on her parade. So let's just get it over with. And she invites Mercedes Moné out to the ring. And here comes Mercedes. She is dressed in like a white veil, like she's in mourning, except it's white. You would think she would be wearing black, but she's wearing white like she's walking down the aisle to marry Frank the lawyer. So she makes her way down to the ring. It's still dark, by the way. So Willow puts over Moné's Unstoppable 2025. But Mercedes, at that point, she took her hat off. And you could see like she's been crying. Like the makeup is running. And she just crashes out. Starts screaming. And she starts trashing. There was a table in the ring with a cake. She starts trashing the table. Statlander quickly grabs the cake away. So she's holding the cake. So then Mercedes gives Harley a shove. And Harley shoves her back. She stumbles face first into the cake that Statlander was holding. So now she's got cake frosting all over her face. Kind of reminds me of certain Toni Storm when she had a couple of pies thrown in her face on SmackDown back in the day by Charlotte Flair. And she had pie frosting all over her face. That's kind of her parting, lasting image from her WWE run. So Mercedes had... Didn't Mercedes... Hold on a second. Did we not get a segment on this show a couple months ago where Mercedes got put face first into a cake? Or am I remembering a different cake segment? Is this not the second cake in like 2 months that this woman has been put through? I just remember, I think she had her own celebration, and actually it was Harley and Statlander who were out there. And I think Mercedes went through a cake. Why are we repeating the same thing again? It didn't hit me until just now. The fuck? Is this going to be a recurring thing now? In November. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. Okay, see, I'm not crazy. It was a couple months ago. Wow. Boy, they got to get more creative with these segments. They're already rehashing something that they did in November. But yeah, she ended up face first in the cake. And then Willow grabbed a screaming Monet. And she hit a doctor bomb onto what remained of the cake on the mat. And then everybody, including Renee, did a conga line. And they danced around Mercedes' body in the dark. And that was the end of the segment. Not really much of a segment. I mean, Willow is great. And, she's out there having her big celebration. It was nice to see somebody other than Mercedes having a celebration for a change. The lights going out was obviously not their fault. I don't know what happened. It flickered at first, and then it went out. So it wasn't like a power outage, I don't think. I mean, maybe somebody accidentally kicked out a cord or something. I don't know. But they had issues later on, too. So something with the grid. I don't know. I don't know what happened there, but it was a segment that happened. We got video of Mark Briscoe at home. He was outside. He said that he's had one title defense as TNT champion, but he's been spending a lot of time taking in some Continental classic entertainment. Since that's over with now, relaxation time is over, and he's feeling good and dangerous. Mentally, though, he's not feeling too good. It's been too long. He's got an itch that needs scratching. It's been too long since he's beaten someone's ass. So he was tickled when he learned that Hechicero was next in line for his TNT title. And Briscoe mocked Hechicero's magic, the magic 8-ball thing that he does. He's like this. He's making all kinds of weird noises. He says, collision. I see clearly. Collision. My title is going nowhere. After this, we got a Triangle of Madness backstage promo with Tekla. She was with the Sisters of Sin. Tekla was applauding Chris Statlander for having friends, questioning when she'll turn on Willow and Harley. And they put out a challenge for the TBS title and the women's tag team titles. Sky Blue and Julia Hart, they did their usual very wooden delivery for their few lines, and Tekla challenged them to get toxic. So that match is official for Maximum Carnage next week. It's going to be Tekla, Julia Hart, and Sky Blue against Willow Nightingale, Chris Statlander, and Harley Cameron. The Sisters of Sin promos are really bad. Really bad. Tekla's delivery is really good. She's actually a good promo. But whenever they have Julia and Sky speaking, and they have them speak in this kind of monotone voice and delivery, I get that. I get it. That's the gimmick or whatever. It sucks. Like, it's really bad. So we know now, what that match is going to be next week. What we don't know is what they're going to be doing next with Mercedes, right? It appears that Tekla is probably going to get the next TBS title shot against Willow. And I do wonder if they would just put the title on Tekla. Like, is Willow truly going to be a transitional champion where she doesn't have the belt for very long? They just want to get it, off of one heel to get it onto another. I would think they would want to give Willow at least a few successful defenses before they take that title away from her. She beat Mercedes after 584 days. If she were to lose it in her first defense, I think that would be pretty bad. But Tekla is someone who I think would make sense as the next champion. So we'll see how that goes. Mercedes, they didn't really give any hints about where, her direction may take her next. She's crashing out, right? We're in that part of the story. She's got other championships I'm sure that she'll lose. But as far as AEW television goes, there was no real hint as to who she's going to be, sparring with, because they're not going back to her and Statlander. And it doesn't look like they're going back to her and Willow, even though she got her face put in a cake, because Willow has other people to defend against. What the fuck would be the point of doing Willow and Mercedes again? She's not getting the belt back. So I don't know what's next for Mercedes. She's going to just keep crashing out for a few more months. Now, last week, Bandido had a warm-up match here on this show against the Beast Mortos. And this week, it was against Sammy Guevara. Now, I looked it up because I was curious. Had to do some research. When was the last time, do you think, that we saw Sammy Guevara wrestling on an episode of Dynamite? Right? He's been hanging out in Ring of Honor. I think he's done stuff on Collision. But what about Dynamite? Dynamite is the main show. Dynamite's the A show. It's the original show. It's the show that Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega and Cody Rhodes helped create and usher in that era at the time on TNT, now TBS. And actually, Sammy Guevara was, I believe, in the very first match ever on Dynamite. So I looked it up. The last time that Sammy wrestled the match on this show, September of 2024. Yeah, it's been a while. Jim Ross said the first time he saw Bandido, he thought that he was another Eddie Guerrero, which is pretty high praise. And it got me thinking, what would that match look like? What would Prime Eddie? And I guess depending on how old you are, your kind of vision of Prime Eddie Guerrero might be different. Some of you listening to this might think that Prime Eddie Guerrero was 2004 Eddie, when he won the WWE Championship. Other people might think that Prime Eddie was like when he was wrestling Ray as a heel for the Cruiserweight title in WCW in like 97. To me, that was probably Eddie at his true like in-ring peak. 97, 98. Imagine that Eddie Guerrero against Bandido of today. That would be a sick match. That would be fucking amazing. So late in the match, Guevara went up top. He connected with a shooting star press to the floor. Crowd chanted, "You still suck," at him. Back inside, Guevara tried a GTH. Bandido countered into a cradle. Then he looked for a 21 plex. Guevara had it scouted perfectly, though, with a springboard cutter out of midair for a 2 count as Bandido came off the ropes. The GTH was avoided again, this time with a massive pop-up cutter. Bandido tried the 21 plex. Sammy landed on his feet. He flipped Bandido off. He hit a huge knee strike, turned Bandido inside out. Bandido caught a kick that Sammy threw. He backflipped Sammy and then midair hit him with a pump knee. And that led to the 21 plex and the win. This was fine. It was fine. We all knew what this was going to be. And I'm sure we will not see Sammy on this show again for a while. He made the most of it. He made the most of the one match he was given. After the match, MJF's music hits. I don't believe he was advertised for the show. Maybe he was, but I didn't see him advertised for the show. So I heard his music. I said, okay, good. We're going to get something in the ring with the two of them. He power walks to the ring, but he's not alone. Now, in the past, we would occasionally see him with his attorney, Smart Mark Sterling. This was not Smart Mark Sterling. This was Jonathan Cruz, who is basically his heel translator, or has been his heel translator / manager when he has been in CMLL and at Arena Mexico wrestling Mystico. So if you saw any footage of like their matches, he was the guy out there with like the big Abe Lincoln looking hat on his head. So here's something you may not know. Some of you know this. He was Serpentico. John Cruz was under the mask. He was Serpentico. John Cruz is the guy who went viral because he wrestled Samoa Joe in that match where they did the nope spot. And as he's flying through the air, he's looking like, what? It's like this. That was him. He's played many roles in this company over the years. So MJF gets in the ring with him and he calls Bandido a talented little luchador. Said if anybody knows about Lucha Libre, it's MJF. Someone who has sold out Arena Mexico and dog-walked Mystico multiple times, making MJF a Lucha Libre legend. It's true. It's very true. He got a lot of heat at Arena Mexico. Sold a lot of tickets for that last match with Mystico. MJF said he's a bigger star in Mexico than Bandido ever will be. No offense. He respects his culture and his country, so he brought his translator out with him, Jonathan Cruz. And MJF thanked him for coming to a dump like Oklahoma, and everybody booed. So MJF brings up his 6 Dynamite diamond rings. After Cruz said some stuff in Spanish to Bandido, they went back and forth. But MJF brings up his 6 Dynamite diamond rings, and he said, Bandido's ring, it doesn't belong on his finger. It belongs on mine. That ring belongs to me, he says. So hand it over, and we'll just skip the match next week, because we all know what the outcome is going to be anyway. We all know that you don't have a prayer. So if you do the right thing, Scout's honor, he says, I'll take Tony Khan to the side. I'll put Bandido over. And I'll say that Bandido will wrestle me on pay-per-view 5 or 10 years from now. That's going to be a big match, Tony. It'll be me and Bandido. So Bandido ends up cutting off Cruz. And he says, I can speak English. And he calls MJF a stupid son of a bitch. So MJF, he's begging off briefly until he punts Bandido low. And Bandido crumbles to his knees. Or he might have been flat on the mat. But he reaches down and he pulls the Dynamite diamond ring off of his finger. So now he's got the ring on his pinky finger. And Cruz is holding Bandido, and he's going to hit him with the ring. But Bandido, of course, he ducks. MJF clobbers Cruz with the ring instead. So Bandido returns the favor. He punts MJF low, and he takes his ring back. And he ended up actually hitting both of them with the 21 plex. Cruz took this great bump for it, too, where he got folded up. MJF took the bump. I mean, you know, it'll always look silly when somebody gets in position like early for the move, right? And they're just kind of standing there like bent over like that for it. Like MJF, he gets up and he's holding the middle rope and he's all bent over and ready for this move. And he's standing there like that for like 10 seconds. I'm like, eh. But it's like anybody who ever ends up in position for a 619, you know, from Rey Mysterio, where it's so telegraphed and it's like, eh. But anyway, he hits them both with 21 plex. And then he holds up MJF's World Championship. And he's actually shaking his head no, like he doesn't want it. I assume he means he doesn't want that belt. I don't know why. I mean, that belt looks great. That is the second best looking belt in wrestling today. What is wrong with MJF's belt? I would keep it. I don't see anything wrong with it. So, I mean, this was good. This was one of the highlights of the show, honestly. I really thought they were going to go there. I thought that this was going to end up title versus ring. Not that the ring means anything, but I thought that's where they were going to go with this, where MJF says, you put your ring on the line if you got any guts. And that's how we get title versus ring. MJF beats him, and then he takes the ring, and now he's got 7 of them, right? They didn't do that. Doesn't mean they still can't, but they didn't do that. Now watch him take the ring anyway next week. I don't know. Something tells me Bandido ain't going to be walking around all year wearing that diamond ring. We had Timeless Toni Storm against Marina Shafir. Shafir controlled things through a commercial break. When they came back, though, she whiffed badly on an attempt at a tiger feint head scissors in the ropes. So she just kind of kicked her in the head to try to save the spot. So she was mocking Toni's tango that she has been doing recently with Orange Cassidy. And then Shafir spun and slammed Toni, and Jim Ross on commentary begins to question Marina's pace here during this match. And he says she's standing and looking around a lot. And I thought, you know what? He's not wrong. She is kind of standing around and looking around a lot. So Storm fired back with a drop kick. She teased a running hip attack. Storm, though, turned her back briefly. And that gave Shafir a chance to hit a boot. Toni responded with a headbutt and her big package. But remember, who hasn't beaten Daniel Garcia? He's outside the ring along with Wheeler Yuta. Wheeler Yuta reaches in when it looks like Toni might have the match won with the big package. And he pulls the referee out of the ring. And how does Paul Turner respond to this? Now, mind you, this is a company where we rarely have disqualification finishes. So you would think like you really have to do something fucked up to get disqualified, right? The referee gets pulled out of the ring by Wheeler Yuta. He disqualifies Marina Shafir for this. Lame. Very lame. So Mina Shirakawa, she rushes down to the ring. Because Toni had got put down by Marina. So Marina's just standing there. She's got her back turned to the aisle. Mina runs down to the ring. And as soon as she gets into the ring, Marina kicks her in the head. And Mina takes this just comically like absurd bump where she stumbles like halfway across the ring just to make sure that when she falls down on top of Toni, who was on the opposite side of the ring. So now she's laying down on top of Toni Storm. And Luther crawls in to make the save. And as he was about to suffer the same fate, Roderick Strong sprints down to the ring. And Orange Cassidy, who doesn't sprint, but walked at a brisk pace down to the ring. And the Death Riders were going to bail until Claudio power walked out from the crowd. And he had to be held back by Garcia and Yuta. Cassidy helped Toni up to her feet, had his arm around her, and she was thanking him. And he did the same with Mina, had his arms around both love bombs. Quite the ladies' man this guy is. Yeah. Something about blondes, I guess. This was very boring. I thought this was very boring. Look, I've given Marina Shafir her props recently for coming from nothing and developing this character. I mean, to the extent that you can develop a character when you rarely speak. It's not like she speaks a lot. It's not like we see her interacting with a lot of people, socially on the roster. She's the silent but deadly enforcer of the group. But still, she has a character. She plays it well. She's in a much better position than she was before she joined the Death Riders. And she's had some matches that she's been a part of where it's not like they're terrible or anything. She knows her role. But she was very up and down here in this match. I mentioned the Tiger Feint spot, but just like, this was not a great outing here. It's like I'm watching Raw Monday night. I'm watching Becky and Maxine, and they've had matches before that were actually not bad. And on Monday, they go out there first Raw of the new year, and they have the worst match that they've ever had together. Like, I thought it was a bad match. And this was a bad match. This is not one of the better segments that they've had Toni Storm involved in. Let's just put it that way. And the finish did not help. The finish of that match was just fucking terrible. So Renee was backstage with Pac, asking, when are we going to get the rematch with Darby Allin? And Pac said, I've wrestled him twice. I've beaten him twice. There's nothing left to be said. Darby shows up and he says, I've beaten all the Death Riders in the last few years. It feels like a few years. He says, over the last 5 years, I've beaten all the Death Riders. Now, over the last year, he's beaten all the Death Riders except Pac. Pac's the only itch that he cannot scratch. And so he wants this match. Pac said that Darby isn't the one who calls the shots. Run along. So he goes to leave. I don't know why you would turn your back, but he turns his back. And so, of course, Darby attacks. Actually, he sprays him with a fire extinguisher is what he did. And he's down on the ground right by this door, like the exit door. And he puts Pac's leg, his ankle, in the door. And he's threatening to slam the door and break the man's ankle unless you give me the match that I want. And he's about to do it. And then finally, Pac relents and says, fine. He reluctantly agrees to give him the match. And then Darby sees the other Death Riders rushing in, and so he runs away. So we're going to get another match between Darby and Pac. I'm pretty sure that had they, wrestled each other as they were supposed to in the Continental Classic, that was probably going to be Darby's match where he would have gotten his win back. So now they'll do it some other time. I don't know if did they officially announce that for next week? I assume that's going to probably happen next week if it hasn't been announced yet. So then Justin Roberts did the introduction for the Lights Out main event. And he told us that lights are going to go out. And when they come back on, AEW is not responsible. There's no rules. Anything goes, right? All the usual stuff that he tells us here at the beginning of this. But this was Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland teaming up together to take on Powerhouse Hobbs and Hook. And the lights went off all right. Now, initially, when they turned the lights off, it was very brief. Like, the lights went out, and then they immediately went back on. But it was like, symbolically, to signify, okay, now we are officially in, like, non-sanctioned lights out mode. But then they started flickering like fucking strobe lights. I felt like I was back at the club. I felt like Solomonster, man. He's back with the pop collar. I'm back at the club, man. I got the Jack and Coke in my hand, right? I'm looking around. I'm dancing around. Like, what the fuck is with these lights? So the lights are flickering, and then all of a sudden it goes dark again, just like it did during the Willow Nightingale segment, where there's some light. It's not like pitch black, but like the lights are out. And they have like a spotlight, but you can't, like, they're all moving around out there in different parts of the ring and the ringside area. You can't just keep a spotlight on them. So it's a little hard to see what's going on. And I would imagine in the building, also for some people anyway, it was probably a little difficult to, follow what was going on here. So this lasted about, 3 or 4 minutes, maybe 5, before they finally came back on. So the lights did come back on. But that was multiple times tonight that they had issues with the lights here on this show. We need to see Solomonster in the summer of 98. Oh, it was a good summer, man. Highway to Hell. Solomonster at the club, man, with some AC/DC blaring as we're on the highway to hell to SummerSlam. Oh, that was the summer, man. That was the summer. Solomonster in the club hitting the Alex Wright dance. Hey, that in 98, that would have been the hot thing back then. Doing the Alex Wright dance. I'm sure he got all the ladies. So after a commercial break, there's a table that's leaned up in the corner against the middle turnbuckle. And Hook suplexes Hangman through the table with an overhead throw. And you know that Jim Ross is on commentary when you get hit with the obligatory line where he says, there's someone at home saying, oh, they know how to fall. He's been saying this line for like 30 years now. I mean, it's like, okay. It's like an obligatory Jim Ross line now. So Swerve, he passed a staple gun. What did I say on TNT last night? Staple gun. It's like, fuck Hechicero. I got my own crystal ball. Like, I could see into it. I know what's coming before it even happens. So he passes the staple gun over to Hangman, and he staples Hook in the bicep, and then he stapled him in the back, and then he stapled him in the chest, right above his tit, and hit a pop-up powerbomb. Hobbs got Swerve up for a vertical stalling suplex, but Swerve in his other hand had the staple gun, and as he's upside down, he's stapling Hobbs in the chest, and it's having no effect. You know, Hobbs is not selling it at all. Hangman threw then what they said was a piece of drywall at Hobbs. I don't know what it was. It disintegrated. It looked like it disintegrated in the air before it even hit him. Like it turned to dust. So I don't know what it was, but whatever it was gone very quickly after he threw it at him. So then Hangman stapled Hobbs in the dick, and that had an effect. He sold that finally. Then Hangman and Swerve, they brought out a pallet of cinder blocks from underneath the ring, and they slid it into the ring. Hobbs took them down, though, and then he placed Swerve face down on the cinder blocks, and he grabbed a chair. And as he reared back, he's going to kill this man. Prince Nana gets into the ring. He has seen enough. He can take no more. And Prince Nana, he grabs the chair out of his hands, but then he got crushed in the corner by Hobbs. Swerve tried to spinebuster Hobbs onto the cinder blocks, but he blocked it. Swerve got a hold of the chair. He cracked it across the spine 3 times of Powerhouse Hobbs. And that took Hobbs down to his knees. Swerve went to the ropes, dove off, but he dove right into the clutches of Hobbs into a world's strongest slam onto the cinder blocks. You would think, man, that's got to be it. He just got a fucking world's strongest slam onto a pallet of cinder blocks. This man's back has got to be broken right after this spot here. Hobbs had it won until Hangman saved it. He tried to lift him for a deadeye. Hobbs, though, fought out of it. Hangman ended up on the apron. He was setting up for a buckshot. Hook pulled him down off the apron. And then we see all of these Ops Dojo geeks at ringside, and they're all ganging up on Hangman Page. They jump him. They held him for Hook, who hit him with a pipe. They put Hangman back in the ring, and the Dojo dweebs all ganged up on him. They're putting the boots to him. They're putting the boots to Swerve, and it's all legal. So Hobbs got a chain. He wrapped it around Hangman and Swerve. Like they're sitting in the ring, I think, like back to back. And he's wrapping the chain around both of their necks to like tie them together, right? So he's going to hang them both. Prince Nana gets up on the apron. He splashes hot coffee because he's got his coffee blend. So he splashes hot coffee into Hobbs's eyes. And at that point, after the scalding hot coffee hits him in the face, Hangman and Swerve fight back to their feet. They took out the Dojo dorks. And then Hangman went out to the apron. He's lining up Hobbs for a buckshot. Hobbs, though, caught him into a spine buster for a near fall only because Swerve caught him with a house call kick. That's what broke it up. Swerve then climbed to the top with Hobbs in his sights. But instead, he looks outside at the gaggle of Dojo dweebs outside. And he's like, you know what would be a better idea? Instead of me jumping on my opponent in the ring, who has been neutralized temporarily, I think I'll turn my attention to all of these rookie schmucks outside the ring here, and I'll just dive out onto them instead. And so that's what he does, and he takes them all down with a Swerve stomp. Back inside, Hangman got Hobbs up in position for a deadeye right over the cinder blocks, and Swerve came off the top with a stomp, and that sent Hobbs down head first onto the cinder blocks. This wasn't the finish, by the way. It was for Hobbs. I mean, that took him out of the match, as it should have, but that was not the finish. So that left Hook all by himself with Hangman and Swerve, who delivered a house call. Then Swerve held Hook for Hangman to deliver a buckshot lariat. And then he hung Hook over the top rope with a chain wrapped around his neck, same way Hangman beat Moxley at All in Texas. And Hook very quickly tapped out to hand the win to the baby faces. Swerve must be superhuman, man. I got to tell you, because this guy was moving around pretty good with no signs of any sort of, injury or pain or anything. He got a world's strongest slam onto a bed of cinder blocks. and was showing no ill effects. It's very impressive. What did Stone Cold say in the interview he just did with Chris Van Vliet? Chris said if there was one message that Austin wanted to impart on all wrestlers right now, one thing, what would it be? Sell. Sell, sell, sell. They went 20 minutes past the top of the hour with this. Hangman got his revenge on Hook, and they sent the fans home happy. It was the expected plunder match. You know, it's a lights out match, so you know what to expect. And of course, we got the staple gun. You know, the biggest surprise was for me here, nobody bled. You had Hangman and Swerve, and you had a lights out match, and nobody bled. It was a pleasant surprise. We get so much of it. It was kind of nice to not see it here. But I'm shocked we didn't get it. You know, one of my predictions, I did my prediction show recently. One of my predictions for 2026 was that Hangman and Swerve are going to hold the AEW tag team titles. I believe that will be the case. And honestly, like I'm watching them out there together, having them chase after FTR for the titles speaks to me more than Copeland and Christian going after FTR. Like there was a time for it and they didn't do it. Right? Or they did the initial match, and obviously they're waiting for Copeland to come back and then they'll pick up with it. But I kind of feel like once they pick up with it, it's like, it's already been done. It's already kind of dead, you know? I mean, you know, if they tell the story the right way, you'll get people to care about Copeland and Christian actually holding those titles, you know, for the first time. But I don't know. To me, it's like, I'd much rather see something with Hangman, Swerve, and FTR. And, you know, imagine what those matches would look like. So we may not be getting it now, but at some point it's something I would like to see. Even though it would take two, you know, big top baby faces out of the world title mix, if the plan is not to put the belt back on them anytime soon, you know, once they kind of blow through that, it is something that they could do, you know, as we get a little deeper into the year. But like I said at the top of this, like there's obviously some good wrestling on the show, you know, a lot of good wrestling on the show. But there's really nothing story-wise on the show that just feels hot right now. They don't have like that one big hot story or program. Everything just feels like very mid. So that's, you know, my issue with it. Still nothing with Okada and Takeshita because they're just coming off the Tokyo Dome. Hopefully next week they can further that story or begin furthering that story along a little bit more. Because that's the one story that honestly I've really been invested in. And they've really been taking a slow burn approach with it now for many, many months. But now that we're kind of past Wrestle Kingdom and Continental Classic, this is where things ought to start picking up and building towards Revolution. We got to be building towards that one big singles match at Revolution, bigger than the one we got in the semifinals of the tournament. Which is why a lot of why I think they were holding back. Because I know what these two can go out there and do. That coupled with the fact that they had two really big matches coming up on the New Japan show. And they probably didn't want to go balls out. Plus Okada had another match later with Moxley. Anyway, we didn't get them at their full strength. That's got to be at Revolution. So hopefully we'll get them back on the show next week. What did you think of Dynamite here from Oklahoma? Only 40.5% thumbs up for tonight's show. 38% thumbs down and 21% thumbs in the middle. So not a very enthusiastic score. Although it is, I believe, a better score than what Raw got on Monday night. But not by much. Raw was not great this week, and neither was Dynamite. Although, at least with Dynamite, we didn't get commercial mania for 2.5 hours. So in that regard, it was better. But yeah, these shows were very mid this week. Hopefully SmackDown is not mid on Wednesday. We do not need a mid SmackDown show for 3 hours on Friday night. I certainly don't need that. Going to be in Berlin, Germany, by the way. So I get to watch the show at, I think, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And if that's the case, if that's the case, we're probably looking at an 8 or 8:15 stream on Friday night. I like the sound of that. So just be aware of that. Let's get into your super chats here. We're currently at 311 likes. So we are behind the 400 goal for B2B. We're going to do Be the Booker. This is it. Last call. You got until I get through these messages here to get those likes up. Hey, Joseph Stewart. Good to hear from you, brother. I know he's got a bunch of questions for me. Good way to take my mind off all the ills of the world when I see Joseph Stewart asking so many innocent questions here. It's all good. He says Sebastian Stan is cast in The Batman 2. Looks like he might be playing Harvey Dent / Two-Face. It's a good character. It's a good character to play. And the Joker will be in that movie, played by actor Barry Keoghan. I don't know who Barry Keoghan is. But if that's going to be the role he's playing, I don't envy him stepping into those shoes coming off of Heath Ledger. Although I guess after Heath Ledger, who is it that they had playing the Joker? Brainiac will be the main villain in the Superman sequel. And Lex Luthor is returning as well. Buy or sell, Old Man Marley from Home Alone or the Pigeon Lady from Home Alone 2? I gotta go Old Man Marley because the Pigeon Lady probably smells like shit. I'd rather hang out with him. No, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang I did not see. Have I seen So I Married an Axe Murderer? Yes, with Mike Myers. Have you watched Stone Cold's recent interview? I did. I watched the entire thing. How different would Stone Cold's career have been if Vince McMahon did not become the Mr. McMahon character? I don't think that period would have been quite as hot as it was. Vince is the greatest heel of all time. So if you don't have the greatest heel of all time out there as the foil for Austin, who's the foil? I mean, I guess The Rock, but he was the foil anyway. It was Vince who was sort of directing traffic, and he was the one throwing all of these different people at him, right? So who would have filled that role? There really is nobody else I could think of who would have been able to do that kind of a job with it. So it would have looked a little bit different for sure. If Hogan returned to WWE in '98 and had the match with Austin at WrestleMania 14, would Mike Tyson still be part of WrestleMania, and would Hogan be a part of DX? No, Hogan would not be a part of DX. If Hogan would have come back to WWE in '98, that would have been a disaster for Austin and everybody else. Joseph says, if Stone Cold against Hogan had happened at WrestleMania 14, if Hogan did return in '98, would WrestleMania 15's main event have been Stone Cold against Shawn Michaels the next year? No, I mean, again, it's an impossible thing to even ask a question like that. But if Shawn gets hurt in '98 in the casket match, he ain't going to be around in '99. So he's still gone. It doesn't really change what they did with Shawn. Would the Austin McMahon feud still happen if Hogan returned to WWE in '98? No, I don't believe it does. That's why I said if he came back before all that really kind of kicked up, it would have been a disaster for Austin. Do I remember the show Seventh Heaven? Yeah, I didn't watch it, and I think the guy on that show turned out to be a fucking creep. So yeah, fuck that guy. Did you used to watch Mad TV? When like a wrestler was on, like when Brett was on doing stuff with Will Sasso and stuff, but yeah, I was never really like a big Mad TV guy. I would watch like In Living Color. Not really a big Mad TV guy though. Outside of some funny skits that I would watch every now and then. Have I seen the Bruce Willis movie, The Fifth Element? No. Do you miss WWE showing what happened last week during commercials, like the slam of the week? Of all the issues that I have with WWE programming, the slam of the week not being there anymore is not really a priority for me. Damn, Joseph spamming, says no cap. He's supporting. I don't see others. So, you know what, Joseph? I'm grateful. Thank you. Do you miss WWE doing shows like Shotgun Saturday Night, WWF Metal, and Jacked? I miss the original Shotgun. The original concept of Shotgun was great. Once it became just another syndicated show, it was useless. I had no need for it. Metal and Jacked, people got a chance to wrestle on that show where they would not be able to wrestle on like Raw or SmackDown, so it was good for them. But rarely would I check it out. What was the original plans for Sunday Night Heat when it first premiered? When it first premiered, the product was super fucking hot. Ratings were sky high. They wanted to capitalize on that and also have a good lead-in for the pay-per-views. That was it. I mean, that was really the genesis of it. It used to be live. And even Sunday Night Heat just became another show. It was taped and, like the original concept was cool, but then it just became another show. Have you seen the movie Paint Your Wagon with Clint Eastwood and Lee Marvin? That one I did not see. What is your favorite Clint Eastwood movie? I mean, True Grit is a good one. You know what I always think of, though? I always think of Hondo. And the reason I think of Hondo is because of Married with Children. If you remember, there was that one episode where Al is trying to watch Hondo. Hondo's coming on tonight. Leave me alone. Tonight's the big night. Hondo's going to be on. And I think he gets like trapped in a supermarket or something. He ends up missing Hondo. So when I think of like Clint Eastwood, or not Clint Eastwood, when I think of John Wayne, I'm thinking of John Wayne, by the way. I mixed that super chat up with the next one. So True Grit and Hondo, we're talking John Wayne here. Favorite Clint Eastwood movie, though, he said. I like Dirty Harry. Have I seen the John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara movie McClintock? I haven't, believe it or not. That one I answered. This year in 2026 marks the 60th anniversary of the Adam West Batman TV show. Wow. I did not know that. Joseph says they will be having a Batman 66 reunion this weekend in Hollywood, celebrating the 60th anniversary. Julie Newmar, who played Catwoman in the show, will be at the reunion. She's probably one of the only ones who's still alive. She may be the only one there. What was your introduction to Batman? What was my introduction to Batman? Honestly, it may have been that show. It might have been the 66 show. Obviously in reruns. Because I wasn't alive back then when it was originally on the air. What do you think? I'm a fucking vampire? Holy shit, Solomonster. I didn't know you look good for 57, man. Is Burt Ward still alive? Is he? I just assume everyone's dead. I'm a wrestling fan. What do you expect? I assume everyone's fucking dead. Most of the shit that I watch on the Vault, that's all I end up doing. I'm like, man, like 8 guys in the ring and 7 of them are dead. This is terrible. When The Undertaker debuted in WWE, what was your reaction to him? He was kind of scary with the bags under the eyes and everything. He was kind of intimidating. When Kane debuted in WWE, what was your reaction to the Kane debut? I thought it was badass. Still think it's the greatest debut in WWE history. Ripping the door off the hinges. When Mankind debuted, what was your reaction to Mankind? My reaction is, why is he Mankind and not Cactus Jack? And when Goldust debuted in WWE, what was your reaction to Goldust? My reaction to Goldust was, what the fuck? It was very weird. The early iteration of Goldust and whatever that costume, leotard, whatever it was that he wrestled in, and he would get up on the ropes and pose and do the whole, that Goldust pose that he would do, but like, dude, like, your junk is like sticking out. Like, what? Are you getting excited here during this match? It was freaking me out. Joseph says, do you think Jim Ross will return to WWE? No. To do what? Have you seen the Dolph Lundgren movie, Bridge of Dragons? I have not. What is your favorite Dolph Lundgren movie? I don't know. It might be Masters of the Universe. It'd be Rocky IV. Rocky IV, and then probably Masters of the Universe. And Joseph says, have a blessed day and a great week. You too. You as well, Joseph. Hopefully I'll see you on Friday. Fried Chicken and Ribs 2026. Say hello to Mercedes Crash Out Monet. Just like I told you a few months ago. I told you this is how it would play out. Why are they doing this? Where is it leading? Oh, gee, I wonder. Lakers Pat says, if Goldberg versus Hogan happened on pay-per-view, would it have beaten Starrcade 97's buy rate? And if Brett didn't leave, how would you book WrestleMania 14 and Mike Tyson? WrestleMania 14 is Brett versus Austin, with Brett putting Austin over finally. What you do with Shawn Michaels, I don't really give a shit. It should have been Brett dropping the belt to Austin. And you could have Mike Tyson involved in that match exactly the same way that you did. I mean, you would have to play it a little bit differently, obviously, because there'd be no DX involved. But it should have been Brett and Austin. One last time, Brett does the honors. That's how it should have happened. And as far as Goldberg and Hogan, would it have topped Starrcade 97's buy rate? I don't think so, no. No. You got to remember, Hogan and Sting was built up over 18 months. Goldberg and Hogan, there was no build at all. So it would have done a good buy rate, but I don't think it would have topped what Starrcade did. Sidro, what did the two pieces of bread say on their wedding day? It was loaf at first sight. There's our introduction for Sidro. And I discovered that dolphins have an extra sense that humans don't have. I call it a sense of poipus. And Sidro, you get the double drop here. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. A sense of poipus. 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 Shawn versus Austin was pretty good. Shawn versus Austin was really good at the King of the Ring in 97. I don't like their WrestleMania match. And neither does Austin. Austin doesn't like that match either. Shawn did his best. I don't know how he did it with his back in the state that it was in, but I don't like that match. I never did. Solo's favorite sicko. Should AEW have their own Hall of Fame, and when? Yeah, they'll have their own Hall of Fame. They could probably wait a few more years. This is what, year 7? This will be year 7? Yeah, I mean, you know what? I think even if they wait until they hit 10 years. And yes, they'll be around in 10 years. Some people are like, 2 more years, 3 more years. When the contract is up, that's it. That's the end of AEW. Like, no. When they hit year 10-year anniversary, you could do that too. But then you can have a Hall of Fame. Arabian Night, 2.5 hours tonight, and half the ad breaks Raw had. Hashtag yeah. They did not assault you in the way that Raw did. I don't even know if we can call it Raw anymore. It's more like WWE ads featuring Raw. It's awful, dude. Like right in the middle of the matches and everything. It's just fucking awful. GMB. WWE or AEW? Who would you love to see go heel or face? I do think that Cody as a heel would be more fun than what he's doing now. So that's one. Who would I like to see go heel or face? Cody, honestly, is probably the main one. Like, if Cody and Randy were going to feud, I actually think it would be more compelling if it was Randy as the face and Cody as the heel. He'd be the one. No Cap says, hi Solo, WWF No Mercy or WrestleMania 2000 for the N64? Obviously, both games I think are well regarded. No Mercy, I feel like No Mercy is like the one that's held in high regard. I didn't have an N64 though. So if I did play it, I think I played it maybe at a friend's house, but I didn't own an N64, so I didn't own either one of them. The Shoulder Demon. AEW, the new retirement home for ex-TNA wrestlers. Jarrett, Lethal, Alexander, Bailey, and something. The new retirement home for ex-TNA wrestlers. It's the retirement home for ex-WWE wrestlers, too. And Isaac says, Forbidden Door 2026 at Arena Mexico. What say you? That'd be cool, but I don't think so. Toni has said that they're going to definitely do Grand Slam Mexico again, and if they do, it probably will be at Arena Mexico. I think he wants that on TV. I think he wants that as a TV special. So, yeah, I don't see it there, but they're definitely going to be back at Arena Mexico this year. And we got RDS Harry. Says, this may be a hot take, but I'm picking Oba as the wild card pick to win the Royal Rumble, and I think he will have 14 eliminations. I think that Oba will have many eliminations in the Rumble, but will not win. But that would certainly be bold if they do choose him. It would be very unlike WWE to do something like that. Only con of No Mercy is cutting off the entrance at the ramp. This is funny, you know, like I'll go back every now and then. There'll be like a video clip posted of like an old entrance from Warzone or Attitude, you know, one of those two games. And, you know, at the time when it came out, you hear the music. And I just saw something today. Someone posted Austin's entrance, right? You hear the glass shatter. And it's like the coolest thing, right? And he walks out, and just looking at the animation now, it's so bad. But at the time, it was like, oh, this is so cool. But he looks like an old primate or something, like dragging his arms down to the ring, like moving like this. It's awful. But see, back then, it was like, oh, this is so cool. This looks so much better than those little sprites that we used to have on like the old systems. Now, of course, everything just looks amazing. Either that or it's fucking AI. It was a simpler time back then. Anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with me here on a Wednesday night. Quiet Dynamite review. Not surprising, it is Dynamite night. But Friday, I will be live for SmackDown. I will keep you posted on X, but from what I saw when I logged into my VPN and I checked Netflix, I think I can watch SmackDown at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So what I'd like to do is watch it, and then I'll have dinner and get ready for the stream and probably go live about 8:15 Eastern time. I'm definitely not waiting until 11 o'clock at night. I'll tell you that right now. So just be prepared to join me a little bit earlier than usual, and we'll talk about the 3 stages of hell. Will we be talking about a new WWE champion? Is this the night that Drew McIntyre finally pulls it off? No Cap says, would you say this is the worst? I think Asuka disagrees with you. Would you say this is the worst era of wrestling? I've seen worse. So no, I would not say this is the worst era of wrestling. And by the way, when you say this is the worst era of wrestling, wrestling is not just WWE. Because I know why you're asking that question. This version of WWE, this era of WWE is very corporate, and I don't like it. I don't like what they've done to the product in that regard. It just doesn't feel the way that it used to. And I think that sucks. But it's not just WWE. Like there's a lot of wrestling out there right now. It's not just WWE. It's not just AEW. Maybe you're a New Japan fan. Maybe you're a TNA fan. Maybe you're more of an independent fan and you watch GCW or some other promotion. There's so much, Juggalo Championship, right? There's so much wrestling now that people have access to. Josh Barnett has his Bloodsport stuff, which is a very different type of wrestling. So I think people sometimes make that mistake where it's like, oh man, this era of WWE, man, wrestling right now. It's like it's not just WWE though. Like wrestling is more than just WWE. Obviously, I cover it. A lot of people cover it because it is I've been watching it my whole life, but it is the top promotion. It is the promotion that is most visible and watched and viewed, but it is not the only one out there. And if one doesn't suit your needs, I guarantee you there's another one that will. You just got to find out what it is. And Kagi says, thank you, Solo. Shout out to Joseph for supporting the best podcast in the game and starting conversations. That's why we love Joseph, man. It's funny to me, people will make comments and mock him and everything, and it's like, hey, I don't see you supporting. You're burying Joseph. Meanwhile, it's like I'm looking at you. I don't see you doing what he's doing. Leave him alone. I'll be like people are bullying him in the schoolyard, right? You're all ganging up on Joseph. Guess who's coming over to defend Joseph and fight off the bullies and punch him in the mouth? Me. Back off. Barry says, have you seen the Netflix sports post about WWE PLEs? Yeah, they have the PLEs up on Netflix. So at least they have a place for them. But if they get any additional content, I think that's very bad. Very, very bad. I'm going based on their updating of the Raw Vault, which has been horrendous. If that is any indication of how they would treat like the territory content or other archived WWE stuff, that is going to be absolutely awful. I hope they don't get the rights to anything else. I really don't. Fuck them for that. They clearly don't give a shit about the Raw Vault. But yes, I did see the announcement. All right, be well, stay safe. Go back and check out all the other content on the channel, including the Wrestle Kingdom review. It's like my Wrestle Kingdom Express review. It's up there for you right now. And come on back here on Friday night. We'll talk 3 stages of hell and Friday Night SmackDown. Until then, take care, guys.